So contributing to the Eiffel open source community or open source Eiffel community. Good to see that some people still are here live. We have talked a bit about contributing, not least in the panel yesterday. Just it is. Where's the camera go? Anyway, I thought. Okay, so how does open source communities work? To the left, I will say some general words about what open source communities normally do, and then I will refer to how does it then work in Eiffel and what specifics do we have in Eiffel to handle the same things. So I just added a icon of the open source initiative, which was one of the they created the first draft of the open source description. What is open source? What are the values of open source? And those things you can search for that if you want to know more in the background. Somewhere back in the 90s, I believe it was. So one very important aspect of open source is that what you do is transparent. It should be transparent. For obvious reasons, otherwise you cannot attract people to work with the things that you do if you don't show how you do it and what you do. Normally you're transparent within your company, but now we are outside one company, so we need to be transparent in everything we do there. Some aspects, I mean, that's a difference from closed source, obviously. So to be transparent in Eiffel community, we tend to, or we try to have all our conversations open in open Teams meetings where the community can meet. We store our documents in GitHub. Our notes of minutes for meetings are first stored in this HackMD document, and then we push it to GitHub with some frequency. So you can go either to HackMD or GitHub to see all the notes from our governing meetings that we've had. Then we also use Slack, as you have seen here before as well, some signs about, and we use it for communication within the community. We also have a mail list, which is noted from our community homepage. You can use, anyone is free to sign up for that mail list. That's our way of dealing with transparency, and of course, the source code is in GitHub and really open to anyone. Then other aspects of open source is that it's often a more diverse group of people working in a project than you normally would have in the company. So all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of people from all kinds of countries, all over the world normally, which is often a good thing. Most often I would say it's a good thing because you get new aspects of the things that you do, and you probably create more valuable code that will suit most people. One drawback then is that it's often also more churn in these groups that work on these things more than you would assume to have in a closed source internal company organization. So you can't really rely on people being there again next week or in a few weeks. Someone that you are maybe heavily dependent on today, you need to make sure that you get the knowledge that they have, or that their knowledge is noted into documentation of the source code. So that's just one piece of mind you need to have when you work in open source, that whatever you do, try to note it down in the open as quick as possible, because you might not be there yourself tomorrow, or your colleagues might not be there in the open source. In Eiffel, we are, depending on how you count it, 2 to 6 companies involved. You have heard about that during this summit as well a bit. Ericsson and Maxis are counted the most contributing, I would say, to the community. But we have others involved, always hopefully a coming big player as well in the community. I looked at the numbers yesterday, and we are 63 members in our GitHub organization. And in the Slack channels, channel, there is 95 people subscribing to those messages there. It's not a very frequently used channel though. The general channel in Eiffel. That's how it is at the moment. Feel free to use it, and we'll try to comment on anything that's posted there. So one more aspect is about governance, which differs a bit from how it is in closed source or proprietary products in companies. The way you govern things, there is often a governing board or a community around a central group of people in the community.
Try this. If it's the file, I don't know.
So I noticed some abbreviations there. So it could be called governing board, technical committee, technical advisory group, technical oversight committee, and some of these could coexist in one foundation organization, and you can have levels of these different governing structures. But in Eiffel, we choose to call it technical committee. And that's where me and Matthias and Magnus are located. So we are the ones currently trying to drive the Eiffel community. So we have regular meetings, actually every week almost. We meet at least every 2 weeks and look into current issues or questions that have been raised in the community and other things that we ourselves think we should work on. Then we have other roles in our Eiffel community as well. We have contributors, which could be any of you. I mean, actually you are contributors since you are here. You're contributing to the summit. That's one way of contributing as well, even though it's not visible in GitHub. We have maintainers of the repositories. Works in some places quite well. Some places doesn't really work too well. People are not active anymore. That's something we need to work on as a technical committee, but also as a combined community to improve our maintenance routes for different products or projects in GitHub. Then we have 2 more roles in the community which might not be that well known. We have election officers. Their main task is to create or make sure we hold elections in a good way every year when we elect or re-elect people to the technical committee. And then we also have, and their assignment is 1 year at a time, but their main work is during the election phase for the technical committee, which is normally sometime between February and April or something like that every year. Then we also have what we call the security officers. Their task is to listen for anyone that could post an incident towards Eiffel, saying that this seems to be vulnerable. Please take a look at this, or this need to be taken care of. And those things, they are currently elected by us in the technical committee, but we don't really see those messages ourselves. They are intended only for the security officers, which is there as a guardrail so that we, the technical committee, don't misuse our admin possibilities in the repository as well. So anyone can actually post things to these security officers, and they should act on it. I don't know if you had any real incidents or real things to deal with here, but it's at least set up there, so it should hopefully work if anything comes up. Then some words about project life cycles and how that works in open source. When you have a new project idea, we heard about that yesterday from Matthias, there is often a graduation process. So new projects are often called to be in the sandbox stage. That's what we call it in Eiffel as well. And in Eiffel we have these 3 different levels of the life cycle of the projects. First is sandbox, and then we have the graduated stage. And maybe the main characteristic of that stage is that there is more than the maintainers of that project comes from more than one company. So you should assume that the ones that are graduated have at least 2 companies involved in maintaining those repositories. And then we have some repositories that are archived. Those are not even seen in our landscape anymore, but they are still in GitHub in the organization for historical reasons, of course, to be kept as history. and that's quite similar to others. Some organizations in open source have many more stages, but we haven't really seen the need for it. Incubating is one quite common stage as well. These things are documented in our governance document, which is linked here, and also the project lifecycle documents. So what is then a contribution? How do I contribute? I talked about this a bit already. You can contribute through discussions on Slack. Please sign up there and join the discussions and be part of them. That helps the community. Whatever questions or comments you might have, it will always drive things to a better place. Please join our meetings. We have community meetings planned in our calendar, which is sent out on the mail list, like the community mail list. We have community meetings scheduled for every month, once every month, 2 hours. Some of them are sometimes cancelled because we don't see valid topics to bring up. But I would hope now that after this summit we have good things to bring there. I would assume so. So please, especially for you who are a bit new to Eiffel, consider if there's anything you would like us to discuss in the community, and then this is a perfect place to go and do it. Then you can also contribute through physical things on GitHub, let's say, real things that you show out to others by creating issues or bug reports on the GitHub projects. It will be even easier for us to handle it, of course, if you create ready-made pull requests, which we can help review and then hopefully merge. Or you can contribute full projects that you have been working on as well. That is very, very welcome, all of these contributions. This is also documented, how we deal with these things in our contributing guidelines. And there's also a code of conduct describing what we expect from people that are part of the community. Then some words about the maintainer. What is the maintainer then, and what are his or her tasks that they perform? So one important thing is to be part of discussing issues. Help the ones that post the issues to explain themselves and sort out those thoughts. And if there's a bug report, of course, make sure it's taken care of. The maintainer will also review and approve and merge pull requests. In GitHub, there are many ways of setting up these authorities, and it doesn't need to be the maintainer that does all these steps. In Eiffel, that's the case. You could have other maintainers, other people that are reviewing code, than people that are expected to be part of discussions and so forth. In Eiffel, we have simplified it so that maintainers expected to have all these tasks. The maintainer should also be active in the community. We would be glad to see that all maintainers are coming to our community meetings and to our summits. That hasn't always been the case. Yeah, and there is also a documentation about the maintainer within our governance document in the maintainers section there. And that is what I intended to talk about or to describe, and then I assume that there will be questions or comments and discussions around how we build a good community. People here might have experience from other open source communities that you will share, best practices or so, or anything.
Just a thing about why Slack. Considering it's a free version, it only gives messages for about 90 days on the free version.
3 months.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering why, and it's quite. I noticed that at least that was quite difficult to get in when I tried to join. Eventually, I got a nice little link by it, but yeah. So why Slack?
I mean, I guess it's the experience that we have had we who have been driving the communities so far, we have had experience on Slack, and that seems to have worked in other organizations, other foundations, other projects, so why not? It was set up by a guy who actually also set up the same spec for the Continuous Delivery Foundation. I don't remember wrong. I think it was the same person who set it up for us. So, I mean, and that person promoted Slack and also actually HackMD for us. HackMD might not be very well known and big thing either, but it's a very well working documentation tool where you can share and not have multi-edit modes so people can edit at the same time. And then also has a built-in push function towards GitHub, so you can easily push when you're done with documentation. So it's a very simple documentation framework based on Markdown. No, but I think Slack has worked well. I know about this course, and many organizations use that as well. Not the ones that I've been part of myself, but we can for sure look into that. I don't think it's just a good thing to have multiple discussion areas. Since we started this, they also launched the GitHub discussions, which is just a few years old. We haven't used that much, not at all in the Eiffel community, I believe. In one other community I've been in, we have been using GitHub discussions a bit. Maybe it was too new and too mature at the time, but we didn't really feel it was better than Slack at that time. So, because historical reasons, but it can be, of course, changed. No problem.
Yeah, the open source communities I'm part of normally, I see nowadays at least, the Discord or Discourse is easy to join. That makes sense for historical reasons. Thank you.
One question back to you then. From yesterday's discussions about open source and communities, did you have any reflections after that?
Well, there seems to be multiple ways to do it. So it's one, and there's maybe not one silver bullet, and that comes back to the discussion for as well. What should we use? And we build a community together, so we ourselves decide what is the best way for us to communicate and to contribute. Do we want to have other roles in the community? Is it enough with these that we define? And do we agree on the governance rules and those things? No, I don't have any reflections specific on that discussion.
Yes, regarding Slack, I noticed that the only join link, if you're not in Slack yet, working is we have a community. The page Matthias showed yesterday. That's the only join link that works. That's good to know. Yeah. And regarding other things regarding contributing in GitHub, and if you're new from Volvo, for example, it's hard to contribute from several companies. Open source. How have you done it in Axis and Ericsson? How is it? Can anyone contribute using the Ericsson or Axis email to GitHub, or how are you doing it? Using private mails?
No, well, it depends, actually. Some of us, or maybe most of us, use our Ericsson emails. We have separate work accounts in GitHub. I mean, we register a new account with our Ericsson address in GitHub. Maybe not all of us, but some of us do. I think we should. With another user ID, of course, and in GitHub as well, another handle, and what we would use privately. But from my experience on working open source with a lot of other communities, that's very different. Most people, at least US people, tend to use their own because they want to have their private reputation when they work on GitHub, even though they do it through a company, because they more often change affiliation than we do. So I guess they want to keep their history. If we have company-specific GitHub accounts, they will somehow die when we leave the company if we do. So it's, well, I haven't seen any strong rules from Ericsson that you need to do it that way, but you should say when you contribute code that this is from name company. You should say this is from Ericsson. So it's visible that you do it for Ericsson. So the copyright is actually written by Ericsson there when you commit code, and the same for Axis. And we had that contributing templates when we create pull requests.
It's sort of the same at Access. We should identify ourselves as Access employees and use our corporate email address. And regarding the GitHub account, we can use our personal or create a dedicated one. It's up to us. And you can contribute to existing projects without any particular approvals, possibly your close manager. But if you want to create new things, you have to go through a process. Depending on what you're contributing, it could be a very simple process or more arduous, depending on if it's adjacent to our core business, or if it's in the case of Eiffel, it can go through the fast track process, which is very lightweight and basically require engineers to approve your idea.
And comment on that from Ericsson perspective, we have, the Eiffel project, or I would say the Eiffel community GitHub organization is approved to be contributed to from Ericsson. So actually, a new employee in Ericsson can start from day one contributing to Eiffel without asking actually a manager for it even. We have got that granted, and we have that with several open source projects or communities. But that's not the case for all. So if we want to contribute to a totally new community that we haven't been part of before, we need to go through such a process, which is probably more tedious than yours even. So yeah, it depends on what projects and of course what kind of contribution you of course shouldn't reveal any company secrets. But it's up to your own. You need to know what you do, of course.
Another question then. No, and then on the same topic, we have talked about, for example, being involved or interesting in Ericsson. You have quite cool things, excellent cool things that could be to open source. But of course, it's always a cost for Ericsson or Axis, and all we get the benefits. That feels a bit unfair sometimes. What if Volvo workers actually do more or less the work with NGA together with Ericsson and actually outsource or open source Ericsson's code together, so to say? Would that be a
Yeah, we have had such cooperations actually between Ericsson and Axis on Backstage in other projects in open source. The Spotify developer platform there. So in that case, we together created a plugin for Backstage. I think it was the Gary plugin actually that we developed together. I don't know who made the base for it, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. But then when we both were satisfied with it, we contributed it more together to Backstage. That's one way to do it. And then, of course, I presume that we share the maintenance of that plugin in Backstage community. Any comments from Axis? Do you recognize that or no?
I feel I should recognize it, but I don't. The Backstage folks are in my team, so.
Yeah.
So, yes. So a short reflection. We're talking a lot about companies and what companies should do and don't, and just to make it super clear and stating obvious, you can of course contribute to the Eiffel community as a person. When you leave work, you can still do Eiffel work if you want to, and then you should probably not use your corporate email. You should use your own email. Yes. So it's clear that it's not a corporate open source.
Oh no. Yeah. Good comments. Yeah, actually, we heard of a hobby project where someone created was it a plant irrigation system? Yeah, based on Eric Stanton. Airwick, an Airwick system. Ah, right. So it somehow pushed out humid water or what do you say? Steam into the room through an Eiffel vent. So he used his console and said flew steam, and that command produced an Eiffel vent, which then affected his Airwick system to produce steam. So that was a completely private thing, obviously, that he used Eiffel for. Don't ask me why, but yes, it worked, so why not? I'll write that as in somewhere. Maintain battery. It's probably a GitHub repo about it somewhere. You can see. Yeah, we can for sure use Eiffel privately, but might not have as huge CI/CD chains as companies do, so you might not gain too much from it. Right, thank you.